Okay, here we go. This is Mitch. This is Mitch. This is a simple demo put together on the Playmaker. It is the snake game. It's not really a game just yet. It is just a snake that's running around. It can be controlled with the WASD keys. We can set the length for the snake, and let me show you the basic things that are in here. So first we have an object pool that we set up for the prefabs that we're going to use, and then we pull from this object pool into an array, and from that array we pull into a second array that makes up the snake. Okay, so our game loop is controlled with a simple timer. We wait for 1 second and then we tick a global event. And we have a simple player input setup where as we are listening for a get key down event. We're listening for the get key down events on different buttons, and then this the way I set it up is we set a string for the direction of the movement, so the snake can move north, south, east, or west, and then we also have a starting direction. Okay, that's that. And then we update the position. We update the position. Let me. We update the position, which is very simple. Every time we have the tick global event, every time our timer ticks, we update the position depending on the value of the string that we set in the player input. Depending on the value of the string, and then we add to our. This is one of our global variables. This is a spawn position. So this is a position where the next sphere is going to spawn, and we add a vector to it. And this vector is north is just basically the global values are here. So the north is just 0, 0, 1. The south is 0, 0, -1. The east is 1, 0, 0, and the west is -1, 0, 0. And so we have the global position vector. It's the spot where we spawn the snake. And then we have the directions. That's it. And so when we add to the global spawn position, we add the vector depending on our input, and then we broadcast the event that we've updated the spawn position. And then we also update the camera. And the update the camera is we set the camera position to the global spawn position. Then we add the offset for the camera, the vertical offset, because we want the camera to be higher than our spheres. And then we set the position for the camera. Okay? Very straightforward, very simple. Finally, let's look at our object pools. So this is our object pool. It's very simple. It's the most basic thing. So at the start, we create a pool array of spheres of a certain size, and then we create an object from a prefab. We parent it to the object pool, and we set the position at the global spawn position. It could be any position. It could be origin. Doesn't really matter. And then we store this object in some value store object. Okay. Then we deactivate it, and then we add this object to our array. So we create an object, we deactivate it, and then we loop through it. Then we check if we have reached the total size of the pool. If not, we go back and loop through it again. Once we reach the size, so we're equal to or greater than the pool, we send out an event, pool size exceeded, and we just hold. So we go to an empty state. So it looks like this when we run. It instantly creates this array, the array, and it just goes to the hold state. Very simple. Sets up the object pool of however many spheres you want to pull from. And finally, this is the little bit more tricky, but also pretty straightforward. This, so every time we update the position, and when we set our inputs from the WASD keys, we update the position. Next, we find a sphere in the pool. In our pool, we find a sphere, so we cycle through the pool of spheres, and then when we get the next pool, when we get the sphere, we go to the next state, and in the next state, we check if the sphere is active. So we take our object that we just got. This I call it a store object. It doesn't matter what you call it, just the dummy variable. And if it's active, if it's already active in the hierarchy, we go back and find the next sphere we pull the next sphere from the pool. If it's not active in the hierarchy, so in our object pool, then we take that sphere. We take the sphere and we set its position to the global spawn position that gets updated every second, and we activate it. So this is what it looks like when we run it, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So however many spheres we have, it will run through it and activate the spheres. And finally, if we add the sphere that we just activated to the array, that's the snake. So we're building a second array, that's the snake. So we set this object at an index, and then in this I called it a snake array. Then we step the index by 1, and then we compare our index of our array with the maximum snake length that we set up. And if it's equal to or greater than, then we have reached the maximum length for our snake. And then we have to deactivate the first sphere in the array, or I guess the last, however. The first one that was spawned, right? The oldest sphere. So we get the value for the oldest sphere. It's an index equal to 0. We delete it from the array. And when we delete it from the Playmaker array, all our values shift by 1. Then we deactivate this object. So what happens is we are once we reach the this is the state where we're going to be looking at. Once we reach it, we're deactivating the last sphere as we're kind of moving along. Okay. We deactivate it, and then we decrease our array by 1, the length, because we've just got rid of one of the members of the array. And then finally we add the missing sphere to the front. So we take this last sphere and we add it. It gets added to the front of the array, right? So this is all assuming that the components that make up our snake are all the same. If they were different, this logic would be a little bit different. And a very important thing, which kind of had me tripped up for in the beginning, if we go through, so what happens is you can see on the right where it says the object pool. As we're going through this object pool, we're going to reach the end of this object pool. And at the end of the pool, if we don't have anything set up correctly, it will skip one of the spheres will be blank. And so to fix that, we have to add this transition from the find sphere in the pool onto itself. So when it gets to the end of if it gets to the end of the object pool, it does what is called a finished event. So it means it's gotten to the end, and then we just create an event here. I called it object pool end, arbitrary, and I just cycled this onto itself. And so by the time we get through the entire object pool, it won't have any hiccups. So obviously it's not a complete game. I mean, it's just a demo. There's no collisions. There's no way to die here. There's no winning conditions and so on. But it's kind of cool showcase of object pooling, and it is a cool showcase of spawning and despawning and using two separate arrays. spawning prefabs and generally just using Playmaker.